Our lives are filled with distractions. Email, Twitter, texting. We're constantly connected to technology, rarely alone with just our thoughts, which is probably why there's a growing movement in America to train people to get around the stresses of daily life. It's a practice called mindfulness.
I believe that the entry point for living a more conscious life is mindfulness.
I would urge you all to start practicing mindfulness right away.
What is your favorite thing about racing?
I think the mindfulness of it is what I really enjoy the most, because you really have to be focused on the here and the now.
When this year's top buzzwords are compiled, mindfulness will surely be close to the top of the list.
So Angie, in the video you talked a little bit about mindfulness. So could you tell us a little bit more about what it is and how it works?
What we're talking about is called mindfulness meditation, and people who do it believe that it makes their brains healthier and fitter.
I grew up in Alaska. My mom left when I was 8. My dad took over raising my brothers and I. We moved to the homestead where my dad had been raised. He was raised in an abusive household and went to Vietnam, picked up some more trauma. And he began drinking to try and medicate his anxiety, and it didn't go well for him. He became abusive, and I ended up moving out at 15. I knew when I moved out at 15 that statistically I should end up repeating the cycle. As much as we get a genetic inheritance, we get an emotional inheritance. And if you look at my family's emotional inheritance, it leads to substance abuse or alcoholism or physical abuse. I didn't want that to be me. I wanted to avoid being a statistic. After I graduated high school, I ended up in San Diego, where my mom was. I went to take care of her. I was working in a computer warehouse. My boss took me aside to have a talk with me, and I realized he was propositioning me. And I turned him down, and when I wouldn't have sex with him, he wouldn't give me my paycheck, and I wasn't able to make rent. And so my mom and I began living in our cars. My car ended up getting stolen. I ended up being homeless for a year. I was having panic attacks and stealing and wasn't doing well. Somewhere between the age of 15, when I said I would never be a statistic, to 18, 3 short years later, I was a statistic. I was homeless and gonna end up in jail or dead. I quit believing in myself. And so I had to get very, very serious about my thoughts.
Be aware of right area out on the main road.
The combat mission may technically be over, but for anyone who thinks the danger is over, consider that there have been 560 IED explosions in Iraq in just the past month.
I had spent a lot of time after 9/11 in war zones, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, Iraq, many times in Iraq. Do you feel like the war is over?
We're combat troops. We're still here. We've still got a job to do.
And I had come home and gotten depressed, and I was insufficiently self-aware to even know that I was depressed. And I made the very dumb decision to self-medicate with recreational drugs, including cocaine, ecstasy.
Even though I hadn't been doing drugs every day or anything like that, it was enough to artificially raise the level of adrenaline in my brain to change my brain chemistry and made it much more likely for me to have a panic attack.
Now, one of the world's most commonly prescribed medications may be providing a big bonus. Researchers report people who take cholesterol-lowering drugs called statins for at least 5 years may also lower their risk for cancer.
And I was anchoring the news updates on Good Morning America. That's that person who comes on at the top of the hour and delivers the headlines. And just a few seconds into my spiel, I just lost it.
But it's too early to prescribe statins slowly for cancer production.
My heart was racing, my lungs seized up, My palms were sweating. My mind was racing. I actually just couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak anymore. So I had to quit right in the middle, and that was really embarrassing.
That does it for news. We're going to go back now to Robin and Charlie.
The backstory is even more embarrassing because when I went to see a doctor about it, he asked me a bunch of questions. One of the questions was, do you do drugs? And I said, yeah, I do. And he leaned back in the chair and gave me this look that communicated the following sentiment. Okay, asshole, mystery solved.